everyone, and welcome to episode 11 of the Cynical Challenge podcast. My name is Grayson Knudsen, joining you from Edmonton, Alberta, and we are just shortly after watching Canada throttle the Cayman Islands 11-0, hence all the Canada soccer jerseys. Jeff Paulus joins us from St. Albert. How are we doing, JP?
Fantastic. Great, good day for Canada.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, Jeff Salisbury, you didn't get to watch the match because you were working, and things not going so great in Stoon as far as the weather is concerned, is it?
Yeah, it's completely out of control here. We're getting what they call an Alberta clipper, where it's just like sideways blowing snow. We're literally inside a snow cloud right now that's blowing sideways. And there was freezing rain early this morning, like 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. So underneath all of this quickly blowing snow is a bunch of freezing rain, a bunch of ice. So it just like my truck, I have a 4-wheel drive truck, and it went sideways turning from one street to another. That's how insane it is out there. I did actually catch little bit of like the first bit of the second half. So I saw a couple of goals.
Well, there you go. Yeah, if you watch,
Doesn't your vehicle go sideways when you make a turn onto a new street typically?
Well, not like completely 90 degrees. No.
Okay. Well, isn't it actually a turn? It isn't a turn left or right a 90-degree turn?
You know what I mean? Like when you're going around one of those like the curve turns from one street to
another. I want to verify for those that listen what exactly we're experiencing. We're trying to visualize it. That's all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know how more I can describe it. Let's just say instead of the truck staying in a straight line following the curve, it went sideways and followed the curve.
Yeah. Just a little bit of drifting.
Does that clarify? Yeah, it was a Tokyo drift.
Oh,
it was
an
an Alberta Clipper drift.
That works. That works.
It's funny they call them Alberta Clippers, but like they really never affect Alberta.
No, but they call them Alberta Clippers because they come from the Rockies, the Alberta side of the Rockies, and they sweep through the prairies heavily. In fact, this thing I think is going to even hit parts of Manitoba. That's how massive it is. Like it's just huge.
Well, yeah, I know they shut down pretty much every highway in the southwest corner of the province. So, like, my brother went into work at Swift Current, and he's about 45 minutes out. And yeah, it's a good thing my sister lives there because he's had to stay. So, but anyways,
Speedy Creek.
Yeah, it's good that you were able to catch a little bit of the match. And like I was gonna say, if you watched about 7 minutes, you were probably gonna see at least one goal because Canada just throttled the Caymans 11-0. It's a new goal record for the Canadian men's national team. 11. The previous high was 8. That was only a few years ago against the U.S. Virgin Islands. Lucas Cavallini scored a hat trick in 14 minutes when he came in. Kyle Larin had a goal. Weatherspoon scored. Mark-Anthony Kaye scored. Alfonso Davies had a couple. Go on and on. JP,
I got one.
Jeff Paulus scored. It was great.
Jeff scored, yeah.
I set him up from my basement, so that was good. JP, I just want to ask this out of curiosity. What do you get as a coach from a match like that?
You know, I think that as Canada starts to prepare for tougher competition, what you're getting really is a chance to work on your systems. You know, against an opposition that doesn't know your systems. It's one thing to do inter squads and work on certain patterns and movements, some of John's rotations and different platforms he plays on. You know, there's timing issues there. There's things that you really have to go. Players are moving at the same time to make it work. When you're doing an inter squad, the players on the other team that you might not be working with know exactly what you're doing. And it always creates a falseness in that. This is a situation where you can work on these things against someone that doesn't know and see how effective you are. Now they can come back, look at the tape, see what went well. Because again, some things that look like they went well might not actually have been very good. It was just against a really weak opponent, if that makes any sense. So now they're going to see, okay, you know, this needs to be done faster. This player needs to tuck in more on this rotation that we want to do once we get to this, whatever it is. But it's really just it becomes almost a controlled scrimmage in some sense but your opposition doesn't know you. But you can get a lot out of that, you know, when you have limited time to work with the team, like John does, when you bring a national team together. These are the games that just give you those precious moments of training time.
Yeah, that's fair. Sally, again, you couldn't see a lot of it, but when you see a score 11-0, what do you take from that as a fan? Like, is that a good? It's obviously a good result for Canada, and it helps the goal differential, especially if you're worried about Suriname. But what do you take away from that result?
Yeah, well, I mean, I always have to reference this, but like, I'm I'll have to make the panicking voyageur meme of Suriname because everybody seems so worried about this game coming up against them. And I mean, I get it. Yeah, they're pulling some players from the Netherlands at this point, but I still don't think they're going to be that much of a threat to us. But anyway, yeah, I mean, as a fan, number one, it's great seeing so many different players score. That's a great thing to see. I took a look at the names on the score sheet, and I think there were at least six. I think at least six different scores, if I'm not wrong. Maybe more. Maybe it was even seven.
Yeah, there was a couple more. Yeah.
And like guys who had their first goals too. Frank Stirring had his first. David Wotherspoon had his first. Mark Anthony Kay, can't believe that he hasn't scored for us yet, but he had his first. At least those three had their first goals. Yeah, what else? It's good to see that Cavallini had a hattie. I mean, the Whitecaps must love seeing that because he's going to now come into preseason training. Yeah, which I'm sure for the Whitecaps, if it hasn't already started, then
I'm sure they're underway. Yeah. Yeah,
I'm sure they're underway. But I mean, he's going to come back from this international window with a hat trick under his belt already, and that's just that just launches a guy's confidence. So hopefully he has a really good preseason, and it just helps boost him that little extra bit. So if you're a Whitecaps fan, you love seeing him especially after he missed that really bad sitter against Bermuda, the one that he put off the bar from point blank range with basically no keeper in goal. That was unfortunate. If that had been Kyle Larin, it would have just been like, same old Larin. But it's Kyle Larin too, seeing him putting the ball in the back of the net and with confidence. I mean, it's coming over from Besiktas, which is awesome, which is everything that we've hoped, And where do you stop? I mean, there's just so much that comes from these games. Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people are saying, this has kind of gotten boring. I think you might have been the one who actually said that, Gray. Yeah. But, it is kind of boring when you're just absolutely massacring a tiny island nation. But at the same time, I think that there's a lot of little positives that will come from this. It builds just a little bit of extra chemistry. It was basically a training match. They had the ability to take what they've been doing in training into a real game situation where honestly, there wasn't very much pressure. So they had a bit more freedom to be able to try a lot of these different things. And then if any of those moves end up paying off and we score, that just shows that, hey, what we've been doing in training is paying off. We're able to actually replicate it with success on the field. So yeah, there's just, I just think that the positives way, way, way outweigh the negatives. I don't even know if there are really any negatives. Nobody got injured. So
yeah, I think there were only three of the players in camp didn't see the pitch. Dane St. Clair, I know, was one that people wanted to see cap-tied. He never saw any time. Maybe this would have been the match for that. Max Crepeau started today. Joel Waterman didn't see the pitch. I can't remember who the third player was, but they didn't see it either. For reference, Suriname beat the Caymans 3-0. And they beat Aruba 7-0. So Canada was hoping to get +6 in this match, and they wound up with +11. But again, Suriname shouldn't be a problem. We touched on Bermuda a little bit. That was a 5-1 victory this past Thursday for Canada. That was a real good match for Kyle Larin. He scored 3 goals, had another one here today against the Cayman Islands. And I know, Sally, we always bug you when it comes to Kyle Larin, and we're going to do it again. And you mentioned his form from Besiktas carrying over. Do you think he's finally, shooken the monkey off his back and he should be the starting striker for Canada?
Well, I don't know if he should be the starting 9. I think that we really do need to look at the way that Besiktas is using him and the way that he's finding success for them, and that is kind of playing as more of a right wing position, right? Like he's not really that center forward how that we've used him in the national team before. And maybe Besiktas figured it out for us, right? Maybe they're just like, this guy really isn't that number 9. He's actually better off. Jeff, you got to help me here. I don't know my numbers. I really should read.
No, 9 is a striker.
9 is right,
numbers, but you're right.
Yeah, no,
if you're talking about like a right winger, then you're talking a 7.
A 7? Okay, well, maybe Besiktas figured it out, and they're like, this guy's actually a 7. And that's where he's most effective. So I wonder if when we come up against Suriname, assuming that pandemic things have eased, we are able to call in Jonathan David. He probably slots in as our 9, and then we have of a right wing would be Kyle Larin, and left wing would probably be Fonzie. I mean, my God, what a front three! Like that is probably equaling the strongest front three in CONCACAF right now. That's better than the States. Probably equals Mexico. So yeah, that's a frightening front three, especially with Fonzie on the left. My God, he's a phenom. There's no other word for the kid. He's just an absolute phenom.
He just terrorized the Caymans today. JP, what was your take on the Bermuda match? 5-1. It was comfortable all day. What did you make of that one?
Just that, it was a comfortable match for Canada. It was a great way to get into it. Depending where players are coming from, again, to get the team together and get that first match, I think was vital for us. That they're settled in. That group of players now, there's a chemistry there. They like to play together. You can see it when they come into camp. The atmosphere that John created with the women's program is what he's created here with the men's program. And there was a lot of those questions when he first came in. And I'm glad, because a lot of people had a lot to say when John was made the head coach on social media. These people have now completely changed what they say, and it's all full of support and praises. But I think that anyone that saw the work that John put in as far as his work in detail, I don't think there was going to be, for those people that knew his work, there was no concerns. And I think he's just showing what he's about, because again, he's got this team. You look at the fun they have when they play, and so good first match. I mean, everything you'd expect, though, wasn't it? The first match. I mean, Fonzie was too much to handle. Kyle Larin continued his hot form, defensively solid, but not really going to be pressed by that, in that match either. So that's the other thing. We were probably a bit more in both these matches. We were free to go forward. We were free to play. How that translates now when we start facing a bit more pressure, when other teams can actually hold the ball a little bit against us. I mean, this will be the test now for the whole squad. That's what we need to see from this group. But yeah, comfortable, really great way to start off. And it gives us all some real big hope for 2022.
Jeff, here's a question I have for you. So you're John Herdman, and Milan Borjan has just probably lost some focus, spilled that, I can't remember if it was a shot or a cross, and Bermuda scores off that mistake. Does that, I mean, it's the first match of a new World Cup qualifying cycle against a very weak opponent. It's not really that big of a game in the long run, but does that weigh on your mind in any way? Do you start thinking, hey, maybe we need to start looking seriously at making this switch to Max as our go-to starter? Maybe Milan just, that's one too many times that he's made some loss of focus mistakes, or is it something where you're just like, what, he lost focus because there wasn't really much for him to do, and all of a sudden it kind of comes at him, and he just, it's an honest mistake. What's your take on that?
Yeah. It's a hard question, because I hate talking negative about any players. That being said, my keeper is Max going forward for this team. I have to say, there's those mistakes are there. They happen. We've seen those mistakes happen in too many Canadian games, quite honestly. And he's a good keeper, but that's a moment that you're not under a lot of pressure. There's a switch off moment. But again, if this game is 1-0 Canada at the time, that creates a different issue. If it's 2-0 Canada and a team gets a goal like that, they're in it. And now we start to panic a little bit, and there's pressure when that happens. So it's a tough one for a team. In a close game, it's a tough one for a team to rebound from. It's very difficult. And there's a mental test there for the whole squad on a goal like that. Because of the scoreline, you kind of shrug your shoulders, but is there underlying issues? And yeah, for me though, Max is my favorite keeper that's in the program right now.
Yeah, Milan, that was his 50th cap, that game against Bermuda. Always answers the call. He's always willing to come over. He's had such a good career too in Serbia, but he is getting up there. And I wonder if this, at least internationally, maybe is his last cycle. I want to say he's 34. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he's in that kind of early to mid 30s range. And so maybe it is time to look at the next generation. And I guess maybe the good thing about the Canadian program is there is a good depth at keeper. It's something that we've always kind of been able to do. I think, JP, you've mentioned it before in a past episode, but we do tend to put out some pretty decent keepers, and Max Kripo looks like I would give him the gloves at least next if if Milan gets through this, if he decides to stay through this cycle. But we'll
Right.
see what John decides to do.
He's Mr. Zombie though. I mean, the guy's gonna be able to go forever.
Yeah.
So
he's a trooper. Listen, fantastic, and I mean, what a player for this country. You know what he's given us, and you're right. He always answers the call. He's always here. So I respect that.
For
yeah,
sure.
I still can't take the gloves away from him. I just think that, you know, he's willing to put it all on the line. I think when it comes down to a really, really big game, like once we, you know, in the two-legged tie against Haiti, yes, I will be arrogant and look that far ahead. In that two-legged tie against Haiti, unless Nicaragua pulls the absolute magical upset. But I still think he's our go-to guy in a match like that. I don't know. I know him and Marcus had that real flubber against them, which allowed them to come back in the Gold Cup. But I don't think he does it. I don't think he does it again in that type of big match. You know, he's been playing Champions League football with Red Star. He's been winning the league with them. I just, you know, I would hope that he's able to bring that level of focus fully into his role as our starting keeper for the national team. But I know a lot of people that are done with him. So it's a real, that in my mind, if I'm John Herdman, that's honestly my biggest conundrum, what to do with that keeper position. Do I go Max or do I go Milan? So
it's a nice problem.
It's not a bad problem at all. Yeah. So the next matches for Canada will be in June. They'll get Aruba and then they'll get Suriname. Again, who knows what COVID is going to be doing? Who knows what is going to be played? If I were to hazard a guess right now, I would say Florida again, whether it's Exploria or if they played today at Bradenton at the IMG Academy. And then if they do finish atop the group, which they should without any problem, the two-legged tie against presumably Haiti, the winner of Group E, I believe is what they are, or Group B, would be just a few days later. It would also be June, just a couple of days away. So a real good opportunity, I think, in June to get your best squad, because a lot of the European players will be finished with their seasons, and not only good time to get the players together to build some cohesion, but also a good opportunity to build towards the Gold Cup, which starts in July. It's a real busy summer for the men's national team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So look forward to that. Why don't we talk now about some not as good news regarding men's soccer in this country. The Canadian under-23s, I guess under-24s because of COVID, fell 2-0 to Mexico on Sunday in the semifinals of the men's Olympic qualification tournament. So Mexico is off to Tokyo, as is Honduras, who beat the United States and were apparently full value. But we'll talk Canada and Mexico. I thought first 45, you know what? I thought we looked pretty good. I mean, we didn't try to go forward very much until I think about the 40th minute, put a little bit of pressure on, but defensively, mostly pretty sound. And then unfortunately, a turnover kind of opened things up. James Pantemis went to try to play the ball to David Norman. It led to a turnover, 3-on-1 back of your net, pretty easy like that. And then nice free kick delivery for the second goal for Mexico. Header went off the post and unfortunately went off one of our defenders and off another Mexican player and went in. So a tough break there, but give the guys a lot of credit. They fought and they went for it, but Mexico was just, man, they looked good, didn't they, guys?
Yeah.
They're always in the Olympics to win it. And they did two Olympics ago, I think it is.
2012,
Mexico. Yeah, 2012, they won gold. So I mean, you know, that was a death sentence. I actually agree with you. I thought we looked really, really good in the first half in a sense of maintaining our defensive shape. We didn't look like we were gassing out. We were really maintaining a good defensive shape, and we were frustrating the Mexicans. We were keeping them out wide. If they were, or me having a look at goal, it was, you know, 20 yards minimum, 25 yards most of the time that they were potentially having a go from. And then I think we started to gas out a bit in the second half, and that's what led to that panicked pass back to Pantemis. And you know, I'm sure that Morrow and John and the rest of the coaching staff have really hammered in that we want to try and build from the back. But I mean, in that situation, in a game like this, you tell them, man, if it gets even a little bit sketchy, you just put the leather through it and just hammer it as far upfield as you can and try and relieve some of that pressure. But you know what? Pantemis had really poor clearances for a number of times in that game. That wasn't the only one. There was one in the first half that he didn't connect with, and it allowed Mexico to have another quick attack, but they weren't able to do anything with it. So, he's a great shot stopper. He is, really proficient at cutting down angles, and he seems pretty fearless, which is excellent. I mean, he came out and, basically got trampled a couple times in that first half, but unfortunately, his downfall is distribution and an inability, it seems, to have consistency in his clearances, having good, consistent clearances. So, it ended up unfortunately biting us the worst time possible, because I think we would have taken on the penalties. Honestly, if he puts the leather through it, or if we put that out into touch and take off some of that pressure, I honestly think we would have taken them the penalties. We might not have won it, but we would have taken them the penalties, because they were not having any success against us up until that break happened. So
yeah, it didn't look like we were under pressure for a good chunk, but it's not like there was anything like alarm bells going off. You could tell some of the Mexican players, Cordova in particular, what a player he is, but you could tell he was getting frustrated by about the 55th minute, and he was starting to show. I think probably at the end of the tournament, when they hand out the awards, that Pantemis probably wins the Golden Glove. I think that he had stopped the most shots at that point. But if he is going to take the next step and be an MLS keeper or someone that gets some national team looks, he's definitely going to have to work on the distribution. So we'll see what happens this year at Montreal. But JP, I want to get your thoughts on tactically how Morrow set up. The formation was a little bit different. He'd been going 4-3-3 for the most part. This was more of a 4-2-3-1 with Brim up top, two holding mids. What did you make of the way he set it up, and how the team held out until that error?
Yeah, I thought the big difference in this game actually was that obviously feared Mexico. I mean, losing Cornelius probably really changed the tactic, because then you kind of go three central players and you drop down to a back five most of the time, wanted to defend that Mexican team. And, so there was so much respect given to the Mexico side that I thought it affected the way that we played. And we were more compact against it in our first few matches defensively. I thought our lines were better. I thought the space in between players was better. And when you do try to play out a bit more, your players are closer together. You end up being more compact when you defend as well. And here I thought we were way too direct. I thought that our lines were getting spread apart from the back line up to the forward line when you look at the spaces end, because in the second half in particular, and Jeff called it, we were getting tired. We were getting tired in particular because there was always a long way to track back, especially for the front three trying to get forward all the time. They couldn't get forward. When they were forward, they were running back there by themselves. Or the one or two that were getting forward, we're always having to sprint back, because how many times do we see 1 versus 3? 1 versus 4. And so I just thought that direct play actually hurt us, because it gave the Mexican side a lot of space to dribble at us. And if they're dribbling at you with pace and with their movement, they're going to be dangerous. And our back line was always backing up, always under pressure. I thought the goal was coming. I mean, yeah, that was a mistake. And I agree. I think, very good keeper, very great shot stopper, being anointed as MLS ready. Well, if the decision-making is not better and the distribution is not better, not quite MLS ready yet, he will be. He will be for sure. But and that wasn't just this game. Those decisions playing out of the back, these were kind of constant things that we saw throughout the events. I thought in that distribution piece, when to play short, when to play long, and give your back line a bit of a rest as well. Yeah, I mean, this team came in, I think, in a situation right from the get-go of this event, in a situation where the team not game fit. I think we said that on our podcast, the last show, that was going to be one of the biggest issues was game fitness, and it certainly was a big issue. The chemistry of the team coming together was a big issue. That was playing itself out. We saw that in particular the final game, but also where I thought we let ourselves down was really when we did get the ball forward. We had chances to get a ball into the 18, to dribble at them a bit more, but we didn't. We were set. We were happy to take, maybe a 25-yard shot, a 30-yard shot. When instead of the 25-yard shot, we could have slipped a player into the 18 and at least get the ball into an area where you're going to score more goals. I mean, it's so rare to score outside the 18 from a shot. And so I think we lacked the confidence in this game. There was no bravery, no willingness to kind of support numbers 4. We were so worried about their attack that we never really supported our own attack, I thought. And yeah, we it didn't go well for us. It's not a criticism because I'm proud of this team and what they did. But
I don't think we could support our attack any more than we did, because we would have left ourselves even more open, like against such a skilled opponent like that Mexican side. I mean, you basically, I was saying to the guys in the Wheat Pool chat, like, this is one that you hold on to penalties, because it ain't going to happen from open play. It maybe happens from a set piece, but then on that set piece, you're not going to be sending regular numbers into the box for that. You're going to be sending maybe 3 or 4, and everybody else is going to be hanging back to prevent a counter from happening, right? So, I just think that we just had to hold on to penalties for dear life. And unfortunately, when that mistake happened and they were able to get that first goal, it was over. That was all she wrote. We were never going to come back from that moment. So,
yeah, it did kind of feel that way. There's talk amongst Mexican media that this team is better than the one that won gold in 2012, and that one featured the likes of Giovanni Dos Santos and players like that. So there's really high expectations for that Mexican side going into Tokyo. Obviously, ideally, you wouldn't have played Mexico. You would have played the Americans, who showed that they're beatable. Honduras beat them. Goofy error to get the second goal for Honduras that gave them the win. But if you look at what Canada did, the Honduras match, Honduras looked like the better team. And I was a little surprised we actually got out of that with 1-1. So I'll take that. It's the match against Haiti I had a problem with. I didn't like a lot of the strategy, maybe the setup that we tried. It was a lot of direct stuff trying to go over the top. And Haiti's defenders are tall and quite athletic, as you would expect from a Haitian side. So I wasn't really pleased with that. I think when you look back at the tournament as a whole, that's where we made a misstep, was that game against Haiti. What do you guys think about that? Sally, start with you.
Yeah, no, 100%. We were not set up tactically to win that game against Haiti. We needed a playmaker like Diaz out there to really start. Actually, you know what I would have done, and I was saying it to the guys in the chat again, is that I would have actually put Diaz up top with PFACan, because he has an incredible amount of pace. He could have caused a lot of panic for that Haitian back line, being able to run at them. Just his pace alone, being able to try to get in behind. I think that Brim just doesn't have the pace to be that much of a threat. He's a bit of a smaller guy too, so he's not going to win any of those physical challenges. I don't know exactly how you line up, but I really would have gone with Buchanan and Diaz up top as a strike pairing, and then I don't know, kind of put together a bit more of a controlling midfield to try and be able to, play some of those balls through spaces for those guys to run onto. But ultimately we tried to just control the game, and it just wasn't happening. The Haitians are a much more physical side than we are, like just better athletes, I think. I don't know how else to think about it, but we really struggled to keep up with their athleticism. We were getting burned quite frequently. We're not that, like that crew of players that we had weren't the most athletic, so we needed to come out with a different type of tactic against that type of really athletic team, But yeah, I fully agree with you. We blew it. We ended our hopes when we drew that game.
I'm glad you brought up Lucas Diaz. I thought he was really good in the Mexican game, caused trouble. Like, he didn't get a ton of the ball, but when he did, it seemed like he was the one trying to, get around defenders, get them to take fouls on him and that kind of thing. JP, look at the tournament as a whole and just kind of assess it. It's probably what you expected at the end of the day, the results. But what do you make of everything now that it's in the rear view?
I think we have to be positive. At the end of the day, I think we're starting to show a bit of depth. But again, if you compare the minutes of a professional play from our team that started and recent professional play versus the minutes, say, of that Mexican team, for example, or where the Honduran players are playing, how they get the minutes at the pro game. And, this is again, where we're probably going to be lacking, when you look at the experience on the pitch, playing at a good level. This is going to change over time, but you saw some stars here. You saw some breakout players, Buchanan being one. Still naivety there for me though in the attacking play, and when to drive at, again, 3-4 players, when to stop play and keep possession a bit, let your lines get tighter together. Because the problem, and that's what I was trying to refer to, in that too many times that because we went 1v3, 1v4, we didn't really wait. When there was a turnover, the Mexican team had so much space to just pass the ball out to, and then kind of dribble out the back line, and that got us going backwards. If the lines are closer and you actually try to keep a bit of possession in their half, your lines get tighter. So if they do win the ball, that will force their first pass typically backwards instead of forwards, and then you can get your shape easier instead of always being a bit scrambled, which I thought we were so many times. There are some naughty challenges that were required because we were just, our defensive shape wasn't good. We had to kind of, make some of the challenges that we made that game. Overall, I mean, I fancy Morrow as a coach. I always have. I think the right people are leading this country throughout the programming, so I take that as a positive. They want to try to get them to play. I think we see the depth of goalkeeping in this country. When you look at Pantamis, coming through defensively, I think that was a surprise for me. A couple of surprises. I think the back line was an overall really nice surprise for me. I think Calgary must be very happy with Norman.
Norman, yep.
Because he stepped as a center back and did very well there, I thought. Montgomery, I thought did okay when he came in. I mean, Cornelius was a massive loss. Godinho had a good event for me. But my favorite player still was Baldy. He is that kind of ball winning, holding midfield player that this country is going to now, need going forward. I think he can kind of become that next Samuel Piet type. For the country in that 6 position. Well, I call it the 6. Canada Soccer calls it a 4. Sorry, Canada Soccer. I don't know why we call it a 4, but
I thought his set piece taking was really good as well. He set up the Cornelius goal, and it seemed almost every ball he swung in had potential to be a little bit dangerous.
I thought that Baldy I thought that he really struggled in that Mexico game, and I actually felt that he struggled in that Haiti game too. I really didn't feel that he was he was great in the El Salvador game, but that El Salvadoran squad was nothing to write home about. And then in that match against Honduras, I thought he was really good. He was probably the best player on the pitch for us in that Honduran game. But yeah, against Haiti and against Mexico, really felt that he struggled a lot. Not sure why, but and then you also mentioned the having to take some nasty challenges. I just think I'm trying to remember if it was Basong or Brim or who it was in the second half, and the Mexican player was streaking down the right-hand side, and he just absolutely chopped him down.
Yeah, Basong.
Yeah, just absolutely.
Lucky it's not a red. Lucky it's not a red, really.
When I saw that, I was just like, get in, son. That's right. Don't let him run away from you.
Yeah, there were some really good ones too. The one that Norman made in the box in the first half to prevent a clear-cut chance was really good. Now, I know I might get a little ranty here, but I know you guys were really into having the whole senior team together for these Bermuda Cayman Islands matches. And I had hinted that I wasn't crazy about that because it's Bermuda and the Cayman Islands. So let's not worry about it. There were 9 players on the senior team for these 2 matches who were eligible to play in the Olympic qualifiers. I mean, you were never going to get Alfonso Davies for 2 weeks, but Honduras had a guy playing in Serie B who came over for the Canada match and the semifinal. And that's basically all he came over for. And then he was back to Italy. And I just wonder why you wouldn't stack that Olympic team with the best players available. I realize that, again, you're not going to get everyone. Toronto FC had a thing that really messed everything up with COVID and whatnot. And I know that the Olympic football tournament is not the be-all, end-all in men's football. It is on the women's side, but it's not on the men's. But you know what moves the needle in this country? The Olympic Games. If Canada soccer on the men's side could get to the Olympics, even if they're just there, like who knows what happens, they might make a run. But even just to get there, it sheds more light on them. People start to take notice. I mean, look what it's done for the women's side, winning bronze in London and winning bronze in Rio. It's put a huge spotlight on them. And I think a lot of people, casual soccer fans, go, oh, well, the men's team is no good. But look at the women's team. They've won 2 bronze medals at the Olympics. That's amazing. That's so good. So I'm just wondering why you wouldn't have put your best players possible on that Olympic squad. And also another thing, I realize that there's no youth tournaments under U20 and CONCACAF. But when we hold Camp Poutine in January, why don't we hold a concurrent U23 camp for whatever that age group? So for 2024 in Paris, why don't we start with the 01s, bring them in January 2022, and just keep building that group? They can play against the seniors. They can play against each other. start to build some familiarity, actually look like we're putting some effort into this group, and maybe get yourselves to the Olympics. I know that I kind of went off on a little bit of a tangent there, but I don't get it. The Olympics turn heads in this country. Yeah. And again, it doesn't do it on the international football stage on the men's side, but like Canada men just need to be in a tournament and do something at some point. Just what do you guys think of that? And do you agree with what they did, or maybe you don't? I don't know.
Well, first off, I think we need to make that its own segment and call it something nifty like Grey's Anatomy, maybe.
Oh, that's clever. You are like, honestly, the cynical challenge. You're a clever man. Guy. Honestly,
I miss my calling as some type of ridiculous name creator for whatever corporate Canada, who knows? But well, my quick answer is that I think really only to North Americans, and when I say North Americans, really Canada and the US, I think are the Olympics that big of a deal when it comes to football. I think everywhere else in the world, it's the World Cup, and that's really it. I mean, the Mexicans care about the Olympics, but that's because they take pride in the fact that they are a challenger to win gold pretty well every single Olympic cycle. But the North America or the Canadian sports fan, definitely pays a lot of attention to the Olympics. So I get that it is important, and it's an opportunity that Canada soccer is honestly probably missing out on. The problem I think, is that a lot of the clubs that our U23s are playing for, they might stipulate that they really don't want to release them for a U23 camp, but they would be way more willing to release them for a senior camp, especially guys like, I mean, you'd never get Jonathan David or Fonzie probably in that U23 squad. Teo Corbiano, you might.
Was just sitting on the bench for Wolves, so why not? That was one of the ones I was thinking, like, why wasn't he there? But
but I mean, now
did well for the national team.
Yeah, he just featured for the national team in 2 games and scored his first international goal for the senior side. So, he probably would have been wasted on that Olympic squad. But I know it sucks.
Did he need to be there, though? That's the thing. Would he not have been better served playing 5 matches with the 23s full time?
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough to say. I know that Canada Soccer's philosophy definitely seems to be get them into the seniors. If they have enough talent, get them into the senior squad ASAP and never look back. Just keep them senior squad and that's it. And I don't know, Jeff, what do you think?
So we can say that, and certainly in men's football, you're right. I think around the world that it's the World Cup. And then in Europe is, the European Championship and Euros. So it's the World Cup. Who does value the Olympics? So in this country is sponsors and mainstream media.
Yeah.
So the women's program, I mean, it's put us on the map. At the end of the day for football in Canada, it's been the women's program because of the Olympic Games twice in a row. And on the men's side, if we had that, because I understand there's own the podium money. If you're in the Olympics and you're successful, there's podium money there. That helps fund a program. So that could certainly be used to get our youth teams and probably put that into youth projects and help the younger players coming up. So there's money there. But the biggest thing for me is corporate sponsorship and mainstream media attention. And if our men's team is consistent playing in the Olympics, it might not be important outside of this country, but to the sports fan in this country, it's massive. And so we missed the boat. I mean, I kind of get what Gray is saying. I don't disagree with it. I understand, John's intent is to get this country to the World Cup. And that's the priority and 100%. But if some of these players are bit players and they're filling numbers at the senior level and you come into these 2 games, maybe this would have been the event to just qualify and get, all you had to do was finish top 2 and you're going to the Olympic Games. And we had a chance to get there knowing that the Americans had a weekend lineup as well. And maybe a lost opportunity.
Yeah, like I definitely agree that the focus should be on the World Cup. I was just thinking with these 2 games and these 2 windows, I just didn't understand why you wouldn't try to stack. But I mean, normally I think, does this tournament not normally take place in the end of October or something? A better time for us in terms of an international window. That might have just been one time, but anyways, so
I think it's a good question. I think it's one where maybe we need to have a little bit of be a little introspective. And when I say we, I mean Canada Soccer, and say, let's just hold on here. Our philosophy for forever, as far as I understand, has been, just working on getting to the World Cup, and that it's sort of the be all end all. But thinking of what JP just said about sponsors, and where the money's at, maybe we need to just take a step back and say, hey, maybe we need to, obviously we have a senior squad now that is able to hopefully fight to make the World Cup. Maybe for this next Olympic cycle, we need to actually send our U23, A- squad, because we'll never have Fonzie and Johnny D in there, but there are other guys where we need to really just focus on it. So I mean, that's a question to throw out to all of our valued watchers and listeners.
There you go.
It's a great comment.
Another thing for, I guess, the next Olympic cycle is that it'll be before the 2026 World Cup. We're already in that. So maybe then you could focus on that. But I mean, that's obviously a strange circumstance. So yeah, it's something to explore. I just know the Americans have now missed 3 Olympics in a row, and they're starting to go, okay, what are we doing? Like, why can't we get into the Olympics? We should be there. Honduras is now going 4 times in a row. They've clearly figured something out at their U23 level. I think it's because they let their kids play in their national league. And I think maybe once we see our kids start to play a little bit more too, we'll build up a bit more depth. But again, maybe we need to stop having international rules in the Canadian Premier League for youth players and just let Canadians play. But
there we go.
Let's
sneak that in. That's a whole other thing.
Speaking of Canadian Premier League, why don't we quickly run through some of the news? Thomas Gardner signed with FC Edmonton. First team contract, so not a U Sports deal. So he's going to be with their first team. JP, I'm curious to get your thoughts on Pamadou Ka and James Merriman signing 3-year deals with Pacific to kind of keep that core together. I know that they did that with the roster. Now they're doing it with the coaching staff. We only saw Pa for 10 games at the Island Games. Is it too soon to give him a contract like this, or do you think that's the right move?
I think it's the right move. Fantastic, though. I mean, 10 games to get a 3-year deal, and 10 games for me to lose a 3-year deal. That turned into a 2-year deal somehow. But anyhow, that's another story. They deserve it. I got to know Pa at the Island Games and see the quality of individual he is, quite honestly. And there's no doubt, there's no doubting the work that him and James Merriman put into that squad. It was the same squad for the most part, 2019 to the Island Games, and what a difference in performance and what a difference in that on the pitch attitude that they exhibited. And there was just a different vibe about that team when they stepped on the pitch that wasn't there. Because we pushed them around quite a bit in 2019, if you recall, at FC Edmonton. And those are games that we went into actually just expecting 3 points to be, if I'm being dead honest about it. The players were like, it's 3 points, and we were gutted when we didn't get it. This was different. It was a different team, a different feel, and you knew you're going to be into a game here. So well done to them. They've deserved it. I'm looking forward to watching what they do over this 3-year period with a very young squad with not much turnover. Yeah, this will be if not this upcoming season, definitely within the next couple seasons, they'll be a powerhouse with that coaching staff and those players.
Yeah, they're building something there on Vancouver Island. It's exciting to see for sure. Sally, Professional Footballers Association, of Canada, newly elected board. Marcel de Jong is going to stay on as president, even though he just retired from football. Marco Carducci is the first VP. Isi Nakajima Farhan is the second VP. We have Sasha Andrews-Vietz, a female player who is going to be a director. Ben Fisk is a director. So is Dazzy, Daryl Fordyce, and McCormack as well, another female voice on the directorate board. What do you make of the group they've put together, and what are you expecting from this group of 7, I guess they are?
Yeah, no, well, first off, just can the league please hurry up and recognize the players union? I mean, yeah, not much more to be said than that, honestly, but no, it's a good group. I mean, I know Marcel's been part of this from the get-go, and then they brought on some really excellent people. I honestly can't recall if it's Sierra or Kiara. It's probably Sierra. We'll go with that. I'm sorry if I got that wrong, but she's been one that's been involved in some exceptionally serious matters when it comes to the Vancouver Whitecaps, and a former coach. If anybody's been following that, what really shouldn't be a saga, but unfortunately has become one. And she's definitely been advocating for players' rights, especially when it comes to more security to in just player security, and making sure that coaches are having proper background checks, etc. Don't really need to get into the details of all that. But I think she's going to be a very valuable member to have on that board. So it's good to see. It's good to see that the organization is growing. It's looking now like a very professional organization. Not that it didn't from the get-go, but now it seems to be well-rounded. So just hurry up and recognize it. It's an embarrassment that it hasn't been.
Yeah, no, that's fair. JP, just quick thoughts on that. There's 2 females on there. Good to see Marcel sticking around. AC Nakajima Ferran too is lending a voice as well. And I'm not even sure what he's doing now. Is he still living on a houseboat on Vancouver Island, or what's going on there?
Yeah, must be painting.
Yeah, probably.
Great guy. My goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Some real leaders there. In the game, and you look at especially some of the senior veterans. Daryl as well, senior veterans that have played overseas, have had great careers. Daryl continues to have a great career. So I think you've got some level-headed individuals there. I think you've got some real good football people there. I like the board, and yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, these players went through a lot in 2020, dealing with COVID, trying to play, being kind of in this bubble that they couldn't leave, and they put on a great performance there for the league. They got us through that event, but you can't tell me that there wasn't other players. I mean, I felt the pressure. I felt the isolation and whatnot, and it was a difficult time, for me. And I think I usually try to stay pretty even keel. So there was players there suffering. And I think players unions, and we can't look at these as just these entities that want to get. The players union, the players that I've talked to understand that there's a salary cap for a reason. They want this league to be around in 10 years' time as much as anyone else does that supports the league. The players want the exact same thing because they also know that without this league, that half of them, 80% of them probably wouldn't be playing professionally at this moment in time. They all want the same thing. But outside of the money, it would be really nice to have an organization that if you do get cut, if you get an Nico Pasquati, is a great example of a player that suffered a catastrophic injury. Now a union would be able to help him and would be able to kind of take his cause, make sure he's getting help to get rehabilitated so he can come back into this league instead of being left on his own here. So I agree. Let's get this union recognized. You've got the leaders here now to do it. And yeah, then we can all move on.
Yeah. Hopefully we see something come up sooner rather than later. That's for sure. Well, gentlemen, I think we've reached the end of our time here today. Sally, go ahead and tell us where we can find you online.
Yeah. So you can always find me on Twitter at Jeff D. Salisbury. Then I'm also on all the different CPL fan group, Facebook groups, on the Voyageurs Facebook, and then always on the CPL Discord. So lots of different places. Always willing to give a hot take or two.
JP?
Jeff_Paulus at Twitter.
At Twitter. Twitter.com. There you go.
Is that what it is? Yeah.
I'm Grayson Knutson on Twitter. We are at the Cynical Challenge 1 on Twitter, Cynical Challenge on YouTube. You can also find us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor, and all your favorite podcatchers. Gentlemen, always a pleasure. I know a little bit of a delay this week, but we wanted to get all the senior team games in before we talked about them, and I'm glad we did. This was a good little episode.
Mm-hmm.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
All right, on to your next big. You're doing an interview, aren't you, Jeff? You're on another podcast.
Sally, you got more stuff going on. Plug that.
Yeah. Tomorrow evening, I'm going to be hopping on the Premier podcast with Mike Miller out of Montreal.
Yeah.
To chat about all the national team things that have been going on. And I'm sure he's going to press me for more details on what's going on here when it comes to the CPL, but mum's the word. So
there you go. So by the time you watch this or listen to it, that podcast will probably be out as well. So definitely check that out. Premier Podcast is the name of that one. Gentlemen, thanks for joining me, and we'll see you again next week.
See everybody.
Yeah. Have a good one.